Admiral Lisa Morgan stood on the bridge of her flagship, gazing at the view screen with narrowed eyes. The object floating in the darkness beyond Pluto's orbit shouldn't have been there. "Definitely artificial," reported her science officer. "And definitely not one of ours." The alien probe had appeared 3 days ago, silently drifting into the solar system. Its metallic surface reflected the distant sunlight as it rotated slowly, scanning everything around it with invisible beams. "Any response to our hails?" Lisa asked, though she already knew the answer. "None, Admiral. It's receiving our signals but not responding." Earth had long prepared for this moment. Humanity had gazed at the stars for centuries, building more powerful telescopes, sending out radio messages, and wondering if they were alone. Now they had their answer. Lisa ordered a small team to approach the probe. Jack Powell, the fleet's top xenotechnology expert, led the mission. His shuttle approached the alien object cautiously. "It's about twice the size of our shuttle," Jack reported. "Surface is covered in what look like sensor arrays. No visible weapons, but I wouldn't rule them out." After hours of careful scanning, Jack's team managed to extract data from the probe. They brought it back to Lisa's ship, where Dr. Olivia Summers, Earth's leading cryptologist, began working to decode it. For 3 days, Olivia barely slept. When she finally emerged from her lab, her face was pale. "It's a message, Admiral, and it's not friendly." The United Earth Council gathered in Geneva as Olivia presented her findings. The alien message was a formal declaration from something called the Zarthan Empire. It wasn't a greeting or an invitation to join the galactic community. It was a demand for submission. "They're telling us that our system now falls within their territory," Olivia explained. "They expect us to surrender our resources and accept their authority. No negotiation, no compromise." President Hernandez leaned forward. "And if we refuse?" "They say resistance would be regrettable." Lisa thought of Earth's military capabilities. Humanity had advanced tremendously in the past century, developing fusion drives, energy shields, and weapons that could level mountains. But against a species that traveled between stars, their chances were unknown. "We need to respond," the president said. "We need to make our position clear." Earth's diplomatic team crafted a careful message. They welcomed peaceful contact with the Zarthan Empire. They expressed willingness to establish trade. But they also included a warning. "We come in peace, but we will defend ourselves with unimaginable force if threatened. The human species does not surrender." When the message was transmitted toward the probe, everyone held their breath. The response came just hours later. Olivia's translation software decoded it immediately. "Your primitive species has no concept of the power you face. Prepare for integration into the Empire. Resistance is futile and will result in unnecessary suffering." "They think we're savages," Lisa said, reading the message. "They don't see us as a threat." Jack nodded. "That might be our only advantage." President Hernandez called an emergency session of the Council. "Prepare all defense forces," she ordered. "Alert all off-world colonies. Begin evacuation of civilian population centers." As humanity mobilized, Lisa met with her officers. "They're coming with a conquest fleet," she told them. "They expect us to be easy prey." "Then they're in for a surprise," her second-in-command replied. Lisa looked out at the stars, wondering how much time they had. Humanity had always fought among themselves, developing increasingly deadly weapons and tactics. Now those skills would be put to a different use. "Send one more message," she told communications. "Tell them they still have a chance to change their minds. Tell them what happens to those who threaten Earth." The Zarthan's reply was brief. "Your posturing amuses the Emperor." Lisa's expression hardened. "Then may whatever gods they worship help them," she whispered, "because we warned them to run." The Zarthan pacification fleet arrived with the arrogant confidence of an empire that had conquered 1,000 worlds. 20 massive warships emerged from hyperspace near Neptune, their hulls gleaming with purple energy that marked their shields. Commander Eric Martinez watched them from the bridge of the Earth defense vessel Defiant. His ship, along with 15 others, formed humanity's first line of defense. "They're moving in standard formation," reported his tactical officer, "exactly as the simulations predicted." Eric nodded. The humans had spent weeks studying the alien probe's technology, preparing for this moment. "All ships maintain position. Wait for my mark." The Zarthans broadcast their message across all frequencies. "Primitive humans, witness the might of the Emperor's fleet. Surrender immediately, and your deaths will be quick." Eric opened a channel to his fleet. "Remember the plan. Let them think they have us outmatched." The Earth ships appeared to panic, breaking formation and scattering in different directions. The Zarthan commander, Admiral Vexthor, laughed at the display of fear. Typical behavior of a pre-spacefaring species, he told his bridge crew. They've barely left their own planet, and now face true power. He ordered his ships to pursue and capture at least one human vessel for study. That was their first mistake. As the Zarthan ships separated to chase their targets, Eric gave the signal. "Spring the trap. Now." From behind Neptune's moons, 30 smaller attack craft suddenly appeared. These were humanity's newest weapons. Fusion-powered fighters that carried experimental gravity torpedoes. They swarmed the separated Zarthan warships like angry bees. "What is this?" Vexthor demanded as alarms blared. The small human ships were too fast for their targeting systems. The second wave of Earth's defense plan activated as the asteroid belt seemed to come alive. What the Zarthans had dismissed as mining operations were actually disguised missile platforms. Hundreds of warheads launched simultaneously, each programmed to exploit gaps in shield harmonics the probe had revealed. "Impossible," shouted a Zarthan officer as the first warship exploded. "Their weapons are primitive. Their technology is barely level 4. But the humans weren't fighting by the established rules of galactic warfare. While other species developed technology in predictable patterns, humans had taken unique paths. Their weapons were unrefined by Zarthan standards, but devastatingly effective. Eric watched as his plan unfolded. "Launch the EMP drones," he ordered. Small, sacrificial drones slipped past Zarthan defenses and detonated electromagnetic pulses directly against their hulls. Zarthan systems, unprepared for such crude attacks, faltered and failed. Vexthor's flagship rocked with explosions. "Retreat," he finally ordered. "Back to hyperspace." Only 11 of the 20 Zarthan ships managed to escape. The rest drifted as burning wrecks, or had been completely destroyed. Earth had lost 7 ships, but had achieved something remarkable. They had bloodied the nose of a galactic empire. In the aftermath, Eric's team recovered Zarthan survivors and technology. The aliens were shocked to be treated as prisoners of war rather than being executed. Their confusion grew when human medics treated their wounded. "Why do you help us?" one captured officer asked. "We came to conquer you." "Because that's what humans do," Eric replied simply. Back on their homeworld, the Zarthan Imperial Council received Vexthor's report with disbelief. "These humans," Vexthor explained, "they don't fight like any species we've encountered. They use deception. They adapt. They're dangerously unpredictable." The Grand Admiral scoffed. "They are simply lucky primitives. We will crush them with a proper fleet." Vexthor shook his head. "With respect, Grand Admiral, I would advise caution. These humans, they warned us. They told us to run. I believe they meant it." On Earth, Admiral Lisa Morgan received Eric's battle report with grim satisfaction. "It's a good start," she said, "but they'll be back, and next time, they'll come in force." Eric nodded. "Then we'll be ready with more surprises." The Zarthan Empire was not accustomed to defeat. 6 weeks after their failed first attack, they returned with a full battle group, over 100 warships led by Grand Admiral Krell himself. Their ships darkened the space around Jupiter like a metal storm cloud. "They're adapting to our tactics," Admiral Lisa Morgan observed, watching the holographic display of the enemy fleet. "They've modified their shields against our gravity torpedoes." Earth's Defense Council met in their underground bunker. The military leaders looked grim. Their initial victory had bought them time, but they were still vastly outmatched in both numbers and firepower. "We have something that might help," said Dr. Samantha Wells, lead scientist of Earth's Defense Technology Division. She activated a display showing a new type of energy shield. "We studied the Zarthan technology from the destroyed ships. Their shields operate on fixed frequencies. Ours will adapt continuously." Lisa nodded. "How quickly can we install them on our fleet?" "We already have. Every ship has been upgraded, but there's more." Samantha smiled. "We've also developed stealth technology based on their sensor systems." This was humanity's pattern: rapid innovation under pressure. While the Zarthans relied on technology refined over centuries, humans improvised and evolved at an astonishing pace. Captain Andrew Peterson volunteered to lead the first major counterattack. His ship, the Valiant, was retrofitted with the new adaptive shields and stealth systems. "We won't engage their main fleet," he explained to his crew. "We'll target their supply lines instead." The Zarthans had established forward bases on several moons of Saturn. These bases received constant shipments of fuel, ammunition, and food from support vessels. These supply ships were lightly defended, making them perfect targets. Andrew's fleet of 20 ships moved silently through the solar system, their new stealth technology masking them from Zarthan sensors. They struck without warning, destroying 7 supply convoys before the Zarthans even realized they were under attack. Grand Admiral Krell raged when he received the news. "How are they evading our detection? This is impossible for a species at their development stage." Meanwhile, humans established hidden outposts throughout the solar system, on distant moons, asteroids, and even within the rings of Saturn. These bases served as listening posts and launch points for hit-and-run attacks. Dr. Wells continued her work, developing new weapons that specifically targeted Zarthan weaknesses. One such creation was the Banshee missile, a weapon that emitted a frequency that disrupted the Zarthans' sensitive hearing organs before detonation. "They experience it as a terrifying scream before the explosion," she explained. "The psychological impact is as valuable as the physical damage." This psychological warfare proved effective. Zarthan soldiers began to fear human attacks. Stories spread among their ranks about the demons of Earth who struck from nowhere and disappeared just as quickly. Lisa received reports from intelligence officers about Zarthan communications indicating growing unease. They expected an easy conquest, she told the Earth Council. Now their soldiers are requesting transfers away from the front lines. But the Empire's resources were vast. For every ship humanity destroyed, 2 more arrived. The Zarthans established a blockade around Earth, cutting off access to the outer planets. They began systematic bombardment of Earth's orbital defenses. "We can't win a war of attrition," General William Carter stated bluntly during a strategy session. "We need to take the fight to them, to their homeworld." Someone asked incredulously, "We don't even know where it is." "Then we'll find it," Lisa said firmly, "and show them that attacking Earth was their greatest mistake." As Earth's cities activated their shield domes against Zarthan bombardment, humanity prepared for a bold new phase of the war. They would no longer simply defend their home. They would strike at the heart of the empire that had so casually threatened their existence. The warning they had given, to run while they could, now seemed less like bravado and more like prophecy. General William Carter stood before the gathered military leaders, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic map of known Zarthan territory. The room was silent as he outlined his plan. "We can't win by staying in our solar system," he said, pointing to the blockade around Earth. "We need to strike where they don't expect us, deep in their own territory." Admiral Lisa Morgan frowned. "How? Their hyperspace technology is still more advanced than ours." "We've reverse-engineered their jump drives from captured ships," Carter replied. "And Dr. Wells has made improvements. Our version is less powerful, but more precise." The plan was audacious. While Earth's main fleet would continue defending the solar system, A special strike force would slip past the blockade and attack Zarthan supply bases, shipyards, and eventually their core worlds. "We need intelligence first," Lisa pointed out. "We don't know enough about their territory." Lieutenant Kate Daniels stepped forward. At 32, she was one of Earth's most decorated special operations officers. "My team can handle that part, Admiral." Kate's mission began 3 days later. Her ship, disguised with Zarthan identification codes, slipped through the blockade during a meteor shower that provided natural cover. On board were 12 elite soldiers, each cross-trained in combat, espionage, and xenolinguistics. They targeted a small Zarthan outpost on a moon of a gas giant 17 light-years from Earth. The facility was lightly defended, used mainly for refueling and communications. Kate's team infiltrated it using stolen Zarthan environmental suits. "Remember," she told her team, "we need their star charts and military schedules. No unnecessary killing." The operation went perfectly until they reached the central data core. There, they encountered something unexpected: a different alien species working alongside the Zarthans. "Slaves," whispered Kate's second-in-command after observing how the Zarthans treated them. The aliens were tall, thin beings with 4 arms and large eyes. They flinched whenever a Zarthan came near. Kate made a split-second decision. "New plan. We're taking one of them with us. They might know things the computers don't." One of the aliens, who called himself Jix, willingly joined them after Kate's team protected him from a Zarthan officer. Back on their ship, Jix revealed a wealth of information about the Empire. Zarthans control over 300 systems, he explained through a translation device. "My people, the Nevar, were among the first they conquered. Many species served them unwillingly." Meanwhile, Earth unveiled its newest weapon. The AI-enhanced battle cruisers were a revolutionary step in warfare. Each ship contained an artificial intelligence that could analyze enemy tactics and adapt strategies in milliseconds. Captain Frank Bailey commanded the first AI cruiser, the Artemis. "She learns with every engagement," he explained to Lisa. "The more we fight, the smarter she gets." The Artemis led Earth's first major offensive beyond the solar system. With data from Kate's mission, they targeted a major Zarthan shipyard in a neighboring star system. The Zarthans were completely unprepared for an attack so far from Earth. "Impossible," exclaimed the Zarthan commander as the human ships appeared without warning. "They can't have jumped technology already." The Artemis moved with uncanny precision, its AI predicting Zarthan maneuvers before they happened. The shipyard was destroyed along with 12 warships under construction. As planned, the human fleet jumped away before reinforcements arrived, leaving behind a simple message broadcast on all frequencies: "We warned you." News of the attack reached the Zarthan homeworld, causing panic among the Imperial Council. Their capital had not faced an enemy attack in over 2,000 years. "These humans don't follow the rules of warfare," complained one council member. "They should have surrendered when confronted with our superior force." The Emperor himself finally took notice of the conflict. "Bring me everything we know about these creatures," he demanded. "What kind of species chooses to fight when they should logically submit?" As Earth prepared more strikes, General Carter received remarkable news from Kate's team. The Nevar weren't the only enslaved species eager to help humans. Across the Empire, word was spreading about the species that dared to fight back. The war was changing. Humanity wasn't just defending Earth anymore. They were becoming the spark for a much larger rebellion. Ambassador Nicole Grant had never expected to represent humanity to alien species under these circumstances. Yet here she was, standing in a secret base, hidden in an asteroid field near the edge of Zarthan space, facing representatives from 7 different alien civilizations. "The Zarthans have controlled our worlds for generations," said the Nevar delegate, the tall 4-armed alien that Lieutenant Kate Daniels had rescued. "We believed resistance was impossible until we saw humans fight." Nicole studied each alien face. Besides the Nevar, there were the reptilian Krell, the insectoid Vespians, and others with physiologies so different from humans she couldn't read their expressions. The Zarthan Empire has dominated this sector of the galaxy for over 3,000 years, explained another delegate. They conquered my people when we had barely achieved spaceflight, just as they attempted with yours. Nickel straightened her shoulders. Humanity is prepared to share our technology and tactical knowledge. In return, we need information about Zarthan defenses and supply routes. Thus was born the Coalition of Free Worlds, a desperate alliance of subjugated species united by a common enemy. While Earth's ships continued striking Zarthan territories, Nickel worked to formalize the coalition. We need more than just information, General Carter told her during a secured transmission. We need fighters. Major Ryan Collins was assigned to train the coalition forces. A veteran Special Forces operative, Ryan found himself teaching combat tactics to beings with wildly different anatomies and abilities. The Zarthans rely on overwhelming force and strict formations, he explained to his first group of recruits. They don't adapt well to chaos. That's what we'll use against them. Ryan was surprised to discover how quickly some species learned. The Vespians could communicate complex strategies instantly through pheromones. The Navar could operate equipment with 4 hands simultaneously. Each species brought unique advantages to the fight. Why haven't you joined forces before? Ryan asked during a training session. The Zarthans keep conquered worlds isolated from each other, answered a Krell soldier. They control all interstellar travel and communication. Many of us didn't even know about other subjugated species until recently. As training progressed, the coalition launched its first coordinated attacks. Zarthan outposts across multiple systems were hit simultaneously, using tactics developed by humans, but adapted to each species' strengths. The Emperor was furious. How are these rebellions spreading so quickly? He demanded of his generals, increase garrison forces on all worlds. But the Empire's military was stretched thin. For millennia, they had relied on fear and overwhelming technology to maintain control. They had never faced a coordinated resistance movement, let alone one led by a species as adaptable as humans. Nickel received surprising reports from coalition spies. On some Zarthan worlds, citizens were questioning the war against Earth. Videos of human courage in battle had been leaked onto Zarthan networks, causing some to admire the species they were supposed to fear. The Zarthans believe in a strict hierarchy of species, explained Jix, the Navar who had become Nickel's advisor. Humans confuse them. Your technology is less advanced, yet you fight with strategies they can't predict. Admiral Lisa Morgan visited the coalition base to assess their progress. She watched as Ryan's trainees performed combat drills, using a mixture of human and alien tactics. We've created something unprecedented, Nickel told her. The first multi-species military force in this part of the galaxy. Lisa nodded. And we're just getting started. Dr. Wells has adapted our weapons technology to work with their physiologies. Back on Earth, the war had united humanity like never before. Nations that had been rivals for centuries now worked together, pooling resources and knowledge. Old enemies became allies against a common threat. The Zarthan Empire faced something they had never encountered before, a species whose greatest strength was adaptation, backed by a growing alliance of worlds hungry for freedom. Internal rebellion sparked on dozens of planets, inspired by stories of human resistance. For the first time, in thousands of years, the Empire was no longer expanding. It was beginning to crack from within. The Zarthan Emperor sat on his crystalline throne, his scaled face twisted with rage as his generals delivered the latest reports. For the first time, in his 300-year reign, he felt fear. The coalition forces have liberated 12 more systems, said his chief military advisor. Our outer defenses are failing. Then we will end this now, the Emperor declared. Prepare the Nova Cannon. The Nova Cannon was the Empire's ultimate weapon, capable of destroying an entire planet. It had been used only twice in Zarthan history, both times to make examples of rebellious worlds. Now it was being aimed at Earth. Admiral Lisa Morgan received the intelligence report with grim resolve. Coalition spies had discovered the Empire's plan. "How much time do we have?" she asked. "3 days at most," replied her intelligence officer. "Their weapon ship has already entered the outer solar system." Lisa immediately contacted Dr. Benjamin Miller, Earth's leading expert on planetary defense. For years, his ideas had been considered too expensive and impractical to implement. Now they were Earth's only hope. "The shield network isn't ready," Ben explained, showing her the global defense grid still under construction. "We've only completed 60% of the emitters. What if we concentrate the power on the side facing the attack?" Lisa suggested. Ben ran simulations through the night. By morning, he had an answer. "It might work, but the strain will burn out the entire system. We'll only get one chance." As Earth prepared its defenses, Captain Laura Wright volunteered for what many considered a suicide mission. Her ship, the Valiant, would leave a small fleet to delay the Nova Cannon vessel. "We can't destroy it," she told her crew, "but we can slow it down to give Earth more time." Laura's fleet consisted of just 6 ships, all equipped with the latest stealth technology. They intercepted the massive Zarthan weapon vessel near Mars. The Nova Cannon ship was unlike anything humans had seen before, a colossal cylinder surrounded by energy fields, escorted by 30 Zarthan warships. "Begin Phase 1, Laura ordered. Her ships deployed thousands of drone decoys, creating confusion among the Zarthan escorts. While the Zarthans fired at phantom targets, Laura's vessels slipped closer to the main weapon. "Target their propulsion systems only," she commanded. "We need precision strikes." The battle was brutal and short. 4 of Laura's ships were destroyed, but they succeeded in damaging the Nova Cannon's engines, delaying its approach by crucial hours. On her crippled vessel, Laura sent one final message to Earth. "We've done all we can. The rest is up to you." As the Nova Cannon finally moved into firing position, Ben activated Earth's shield system. Thousands of emitters around the planet hummed to life, creating a shimmering barrier between Earth and the approaching weapon. "All power to the shields," he ordered. "Divert everything we've got." Cities worldwide went dark as their energy was channeled into the defense grid. The Nova Cannon fired, releasing a beam of energy so intense it was visible from Mars as a blinding flash. When the light faded, Earth still existed. The shield had held, barely. As Ben had predicted, the entire defense network was fried. Components melted into useless slag. But the planet had survived. The Zarthans prepared to fire again. But before they could recharge, a new fleet appeared. The coalition forces, led by Major Ryan Collins, had arrived with ships from a dozen alien species. "All vessels, attack pattern Omega," Ryan commanded. "Target the cannon's charging rings." The Zarthan command ship never stood a chance against the combined fleet. As it exploded in a spectacular flash, cheers erupted across Earth's communication channels. Hours later, a message arrived from the Zarthan homeworld. The Emperor himself appeared on screen, his expression unreadable to human eyes. "We request a ceasefire," he stated simply. "Terms to be negotiated." Admiral Lisa Morgan allowed herself a small smile. "Tell him we accept, conditionally. The terms will include freedom for all coalition worlds." After months of brutal conflict, the war had reached its turning point. The species that had dominated the galaxy for millennia had finally encountered an enemy they couldn't overcome. They had ignored humanity's warning to run, and now they were learning what it meant to face the full determination of Earth. The peace negotiations took place on neutral ground, an ancient space station orbiting a red dwarf star halfway between Earth and the Zarthan homeworld. Daniel Garcia, Earth's most skilled diplomat, led the human delegation. Beside him sat representatives from each coalition species. Across the polished stone table sat the Zarthan delegation, their scaled faces revealing nothing of their thoughts. Their lead negotiator was Lord Kexavar, a high-ranking noble who had opposed the war from the beginning. "The Emperor offers generous terms," Kexar began. Earth will retain its independence. Your colony worlds will be returned. In exchange, all coalition forces will stand down immediately. Daniel smiled politely. Those terms might have been acceptable when you first entered our system. They are inadequate now. He activated a holographic display showing hundreds of worlds formerly under Zarthan control. We're not just negotiating for Earth. We represent all coalition species. None will return to Zarthan rule. The negotiations stretched for weeks. During breaks, Daniel spoke privately with coalition members, learning the full extent of Zarthan atrocities. Entire species used as slave labor, worlds stripped of resources until they were uninhabitable, cultural treasures stolen and displayed in Zarthan museums as trophies. This cannot stand, Daniel told Admiral Lisa Morgan during their nightly communication. We're not just negotiating peace terms, we're reshaping this part of the galaxy. The Zarthans resisted at every turn, particularly on the issue of reparations to devastated worlds. But Earth's position was strong. Coalition forces now controlled major Zarthan supply routes. The Empire's economy was crumbling under the strain of war. You must understand, Daniel explained to Kexar, humans don't seek revenge. We seek justice and security. Your empire has proven it cannot be trusted with power over others. Finally, after a month of tense discussions, a framework emerged. The Zarthan Empire would be reduced to its original homeworlds. All conquered species would regain independence. A coalition peacekeeping force would ensure compliance. Just as the final documents were being prepared, Daniel received an urgent message. Coalition intelligence had discovered a plot by Zarthan military hardliners. A faction led by Grand Admiral Krell refused to accept defeat. They planned to overthrow the Emperor and continue the war. We need to move quickly, Lisa told her officers on Earth. If the hardliners take control, we'll face an even more desperate enemy. She assembled a joint human coalition fleet for one final mission. Their target, the Zarthan military headquarters where the coup was being planned. Admiral Lisa Morgan, who had been the first to face the Zarthan threat, now led the assault herself. Her flagship, accompanied by vessels from 7 different species, jumped into orbit around the Zarthan homeworld. This is not an attack on the Zarthan people, she broadcast on all frequencies. We come only for those who would prolong this unnecessary war. The battle was precise and swift. Coalition forces struck only military targets, using non-lethal methods where possible. Grand Admiral Krell and his conspirators were captured while meeting in their underground bunker. As the dust settled, the peace treaty was signed. The Zarthan Emperor, now little more than a figurehead, put his seal beside Daniel's signature. The war was officially over. 3 months later, representatives from over 40 formerly subjugated species gathered on Earth. The Grand Assembly Hall in Geneva had been rebuilt after the Zarthan bombardment. Now it hosted the founding of a new Galactic Federation. We did not seek this role, Daniel addressed the gathering. Humanity merely defended itself against aggression. But in doing so, we discovered something greater than ourselves, a community of worlds with shared values of freedom and self-determination. Admiral Lisa Morgan stood at the back of the hall, watching as former enemies became allies. She thought back to that first contact, when Earth had warned the Zarthans to run. "What are you thinking?" asked Dr. Ben Miller, now heading a project to share Earth's shield technology with coalition worlds. "That we could have become like them," Lisa replied. "We could have used our victory to build our own empire. Instead, we're building something better." Daniel concluded his speech with words that would be remembered across 1,000 worlds. "We warned them to run. Now we'll teach them to stand, not as conquerors or subjects, but as equals in a universe too vast for any one species to rule." That is humanity's gift to the stars.